portal to the universe. You are listening to Risalei Podcasts.
You know that feeling when you're looking for something deeper, something to really hold on to? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're exploring the power of faith and a really interesting way to understand it through these writings called the Risale.
That's right. And what we've gathered are, well, essentially concentrated insights from these texts. Think of them like collections of letters, flashes of understanding, really thoughtful reflections.
Okay.
And our aim is to really get a handle on why faith is seen as so crucial and what the Risale brings to the table in that exploration.
And for everyone listening, our mission, you could say, is to make this whole journey clear, hopefully engaging. We want to unpack these big ideas, show the connections, and leave you with a good grasp of it all without feeling totally overwhelmed. Okay, so where do we even start with something as fundamental as faith? That's so interesting to put it front and center.
Absolutely. The texts we're looking at are really clear. Strengthening the actual truths of belief isn't just like a nice to have. It's the most important thing, full stop.
More important than other spiritual practices.
It's even suggested that, some major historical figures, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Shah Nashban, Imami Rabbani, giants of spirituality, if they were here now, that's what they'd be focused on, reinforcing that foundation of faith.
Wow. That's quite a statement. You might think they'd be into the really advanced stuff. Yeah. So why the focus on the basics of belief, especially now?
Well, the sources point straight to the eternal consequences. It's serious stuff. Yeah. Belief, or the lack of it, is presented as the deciding factor for our ultimate destiny.
Okay.
Getting into paradise, that hinges on belief. It's like the essential food, the bread that keeps everything else going. Without that solid ground, other spiritual efforts, even if well-meant, can't really take root.
So it's not just thinking about things. It has real eternal weight. Now, there's also this idea I found interesting, that we can grasp certain spiritual truths faster today. How does that work?
Right. The text suggests there's a kind of special divine mercy active now. Insights into faith truths that might have taken, say, years of intense effort in the past can potentially be granted much more quickly today, maybe even in moments. It points to a sort of acceleration in spiritual understanding, a real gift, an act of grace.
That is encouraging. Okay, shifting slightly. Our sources don't just talk about faith in general terms. Yeah. They get into the nature of God himself. And some of the descriptions are incredibly vivid.
They really are. Several passages use these striking analogies to help us kind of wrap our minds around the sheer scale, but also the ease of God's power.
Like what?
Well, take creating a huge spring of water. It's compared to creating a single delicate flower effortlessly. The point is, God's power isn't like strained by size or complexity, making the biggest galaxy or the tiniest particle, it's all equally easy for him.
And it's not just the initial creation, right? It's about God's ongoing presence. Not physical, but something else.
Exactly. He's described as being present everywhere all at once through his infinite knowledge and power. Nothing blocks his will. His attention isn't divided. Yep. Governing the whole universe isn't done piece by piece. It's a single, unified, total action all at once.
That brings us to these two terms, maybe new for some listeners, Vadaniyat and Ihadiyat, divine unity and oneness. They sound similar. What's the difference the sources draw?
They do have distinct shades of meaning, yeah. Think of unity, Vadaniyat, like the sun's light covering the whole earth. Everything belongs to the one, looks to the one, is made by the one. That overall unity.
Got it. And oneness. Ihadiyat.
Ihadiyat is more like the sun's light and heat being present in every single thing it touches, like in a dewdrop or a piece of glass. It means that most of the Creator's names, his attributes, are reflected in every single being, and especially, the texts say, in us humans.
So every little thing, and especially us, reflects aspects of God's nature. That's a profound way to view the world. And the sources argue for God's existence from the order and beauty we see, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. That regular balance you see everywhere, from planets orbiting perfectly to the way cells work.
Right.
That harmony and precise order is presented as solid proof of an all-knowing divine intelligence. It just couldn't happen by chance, or just through like blind natural forces. It's like finding a complex machine in the desert. Someone made it.
Exactly. And what about the beauty? The sources talk about regular excellence and careful adornment. What's that telling us?
Well, the sheer beauty, the loveliness, the perfection, the artistry in a flower petal, a sunset, an insect's wing, all of it. the texts argue, points directly, self-evidently, to the sacred beauty of the divine essence itself.
That's like the signature of the artist.
Exactly. The incredible detail, even in tiny things, reveals a creator with infinite skill who loves to show the wonders of his work.
It's hard to imagine something like, say, a tiny fly just assembling itself, and the sources tackle that head on.
They do. The argument is made that even a seemingly simple creature like a fly actually requires a creator with immense knowledge and power. Natural causes just can't explain how all its complex parts come together.
Right.
The text uses this image. It says you'd need molds, or rather machines, for every little bit, which highlights how impossible it is without a conscious designer.
This intricate design, it naturally leads to thinking about messengers, prophethood, and specifically Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The sources really elevate prophethood, don't they?
Immensely. Prophethood is described as being on a completely different level, even compared to the highest sainthood. A tiny spark of prophethood is considered way beyond, like an ocean of saintly achievement.
Wow.
And for Sunni Muslims, the success of the early caliphs, establishing the laws after the prophet, that's seen as proof of their own share, granted by God, in that prophetic legacy.
And it's fascinating how Ali, who's such a key figure, deeply respected the first two caliphs, Abu Bakr and Umar, because of that very idea.
Exactly. Ali's deep reverence for them is explained as recognizing their closer connection to and inheritance from the Prophet's mission. It shows a kind of unity and mutual respect based on that divine legacy.
The sources also mention prophecies about Prophet Muhammad in earlier scriptures. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, the texts point to numerous passages in the Torah, the Bible, the Psalms, interpreted as foretelling Prophet Muhammad's arrival, peace be upon him.
Are there specifics?
Yes, names like Ahmad, Ahayad, descriptions like the one with the sword and the staff, or wearing a crown, these are all seen as clear pointers to him.
And these weren't just vague hints. The sources mention specific signs before his prophethood, these irasat.
Right, these irasats were like early wonders. Signs pointing the way. Examples given include Kabilue, centuries earlier, announcing a prophet named Muhammad would come. Yeah. And Saif B. Ghiyazan, a ruler in Yemen, recognizing from old scriptures that the prophet's grandfather was connected to this awaited prophet. These events are seen as confirmations, even before the mission began.
And then the miracles during his lifetime, especially the ones about food increasing. The sources stress how reliable those stories are.
They do. The miracles involving food are said to be reported so widely by so many independent, trustworthy people who are actually there, it reaches the level of consensus in meaning, meaning it's considered absolutely certain. Denying it would be unreasonable, given the sheer volume of concurring testimony. We're talking about large groups being fed from tiny amounts of food with everyone present witnessing it. Their silence, the lack of contradiction, confirms it.
It sounds like his own personal faith, his conviction was just unshakable.
Totally. Prophet Muhammad's faith is described as having this extraordinary strength, certainty, breadth, illuminating the whole world. He faced incredible opposition, hostility, doubt.
Right.
But nothing, not one opposing idea, could even slightly dent his own firm belief. And throughout history, saints and seekers have drawn from that same fountain of belief, seeing him as the ultimate example.
The sources even position him as the central reason, the pivot for the entire universe's creation. That's huge.
It is a profound concept. He's presented as the axis for the Creator's purposes. God addressed him directly, sort of on behalf of all creation. It highlights his unique central role.
And through him came the Quran, guiding not just humans, but spirit beings, too. That speaks volumes about its reach.
Yes, the maker of everything appointed Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as the guide for both humans and jinn through the wisdom of the Quran. It underscores the message's universal nature.
And finally, the ascension, the mirage. That's highlighted as key to understanding his perfection and connection to God.
The ascension is described as this incredible journey through levels of perfection. He experienced the height of human potential, witnessed profound divine realities, saw the workings of the universe. It really solidified his unique position as God's beloved and messenger.
Okay, so with that foundation laid, the importance of faith, the nature of God, the role of prophethood, let's turn to the Risale itself. What exactly is it? And what's its mission, according to these sources?
Well, the Risale-i is introduced as this collection of powerful flashes, insights about divine unity, about God's oneness.
Flashes.
Yeah, like moments of deep understanding. They were initially written in Arabic, more like personal notes stemming from a direct witnessed knowledge of reality, almost like illumination. But then others who couldn't read Arabic asked for them, so they were translated and expanded in Turkish.
And its focus seems very deliberate, staying away from worldly things like politics.
Precisely. It's explicitly stated. The Risale-i is all about the hereafter and belief. It intentionally steers clear of politics or day-to-day worldly debates, its core mission, to heal and strengthen the faith of Muslims, especially when it feels under attack or weakened in modern times.
It gets described in some pretty strong terms, like a true commentary on the Quran, a leading lawyer for believers. Those are bold claims.
They are. Being called a true commentary means it's seen as unlocking the deeper wisdom of the Quran. And leading lawyer, that suggests it's a powerful advocate, making a compelling, reasoned case for certain, verified belief.
A faith that's solid, not just inherited.
Exactly. A reasoned, unshakable conviction. Its followers often see it as flowing from the miraculous nature of the Quran itself. And reportedly, it's helped many, many people reach that kind of profound, certain faith.
Sounds like a crucial resource.
Yeah.
But the sources also say that people involved with it face trouble. Accusations. Why would that happen?
Yeah, despite its clear focus just on faith and avoiding politics, those connected with the Risale-i did face opposition. Often they were wrongly suspected of having hidden political motives.
But the sources insist that wasn't the case.
They strongly emphasize the focus was only religion, belief, the hereafter. And they point to multiple acquittals in court cases as proof that these people weren't involved in politics and posed no threat.
And it's mentioned as offering real comfort, especially for young people dealing with modern life.
Yes, it's presented as providing genuine consolation and guidance, particularly for youth facing all the doubts, temptations, and distractions of today. It's even suggested its teachings can reform people more effectively than, say, long prison sentences.
So boiling it down, what's the fundamental goal of the Risale-i's teachings, the main message?
At its heart, the Risale-i offers what's called the highway of the Quran and belief. Its most critical aim, to save people from, well, eternal loss and guide them towards eternal happiness.
And how does it do that?
By using really effective comparisons, analogies, logical arguments, making the basic truths of faith seem self-evident, really clear, and directly countering arguments for disbelief.
This focus on belief, it really connects to seeing faith in the world around us, doesn't it? The interconnectedness of everything. It's not just abstract.
Exactly. The sources paint this beautiful picture where absolutely everything in the universe, each in its own way, glorifies God. It echoes that verse. There is nothing but it glorifies him with praise.
Every little thing.
Every particle, every living being. They all have these intricate connections to everything else, serve multiple purposes, and it all points back to one single, all-powerful, wise creator.
There's that analogy of a soldier having different roles, loyalties.
Yeah.
That makes the point well. Each part fits into a bigger, unified picture. And life itself is used as evidence for other beliefs, like angels. How does that work?
Well, the sheer amount of life, consciousness, spirit that we see just on Earth, it suggests this isn't unique. The vast, luminous heavens probably have their own conscious inhabitants too, and those are the angels. The very abundance of life points beyond just us.
And the universe itself, described as like a book or divine letters. What's that mean?
It's a powerful metaphor. The whole universe is likened to these profound books, these perfectly crafted letters written by divine determining. Every part, every creature is like a word or sentence testifying to God's existence, his unity, his attributes. The order and meaning shout, author.
And the way everything seems set up for us humans, meeting our needs so precisely, what does that tell us?
The fact that all these realms of creation seem gathered around humanity and our needs are met with such incredible order and wisdom, well, it strongly suggests a knowing, compassionate creator. Someone who is aware of us, cares for us, and designed things with us in mind.
And finally, the idea of divine mercy comes up as something fundamental, drawing us in.
Definitely. Divine mercy is presented as this really powerful, inviting truth. It's a core attribute of God, always surrounding us, encouraging us to turn to him, to seek refuge in his compassion. It's seen as the driving force behind all the blessings and kindness we experience.
Which leads naturally to thinking about what's next, the hereafter.
Yeah.
That's obviously a huge part of faith discussed in the sources. Why is it so crucial?
Indeed. The very nature of God's dominion, glorious, eternal, sovereign, it kind of demands another realm beyond this fleeting world. This temporary life just isn't enough to fully manifest his justice, his beauty, his power.
It needs a bigger stage.
Exactly. There has to be a place for ultimate justice, for the full experience of divine beauty forever.
And belief in the last day, the resurrection. It's not just an abstract doctrine. The sources give reasons to believe.
Oh, yes. First, there's the agreement, the consensus of all the prophets and holy scriptures. That's powerful testimony. Then there's the analogy of spring.
Reviving the dead earth.
Right? We see it every year, bringing life out of what seemed dead. It's presented as a clear demonstration that resurrection is totally within God's power and wisdom. It happens constantly in nature.
There's also that interesting mention of deeds being recorded in seeds, like a little preview.
Yeah, that's a fascinating parallel, how a tiny seed contains the blueprint, the potential deeds of a whole plant, which then unfolds. It's shown as a real-world glimpse of the spreading out of pages on the Day of Judgment.
Where our actions are revealed.
Exactly. It's a powerful image about accountability written into nature itself.
And ultimately, belief in the hereafter tackles that deep human fear, doesn't it? Death, separation.
Absolutely. It speaks directly to one of our biggest anxieties. The belief offers real hope against the finality of death in this world. It's the promise of reunion with loved ones in an eternal, luminous realm. It addresses that deep longing for connection and permanence.
And divine mercy wraps this all up too, ensuring the goodness here isn't lost.
Yes. The nature of divine mercy is to grant eternal happiness. It prevents all the good things, the blessings, the love in this life from ultimately becoming sources of pain because of eternal separation. It's the ultimate expression of God's compassion.
So as we finish up this deep dive, what are the absolute key takeaways about faith, about the Risale-i, from everything we've looked at?
Well, I think first is the absolute primacy of faith's foundations. Strengthening that core belief is job one, even over other spiritual work. Then there's the profound nature of God, revealed in creation, its order, its beauty, pointing to his unity, power, knowledge. We also saw the central, vital role of prophethood, especially Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his unique status, his message, his example. And finally, the Risale-i itself as a contemporary guide to understanding these truths, deepening belief, explaining the Quran, and keeping the reality of the hereafter firmly in view.
It really does highlight how it all connects our inner faith, the world we see, and our ultimate destiny.
It really does. And maybe the thought to leave everyone with is just that. To reflect on how these things, belief, the universe, the promise of eternity, aren't separate boxes. They weave together into this incredibly coherent and meaningful picture of why we're here. Definitely worth exploring the Risale-i further, digging into that essence of belief.
You have listened to the Risale-i podcasts, Portal to the Universe. For more, please visit risalenortv.com/podcasts. Goodbye.